House. 8 million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him. And 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability.
RTD Live Talk. We are live. It is official. Monday evening. Looking forward to finding out what's going on out here. Sorry I'm running a little bit late, but yet here in Michigan, we're having somewhat of some weather problems here with the roads and whatnot. So been ripping and running all day, but I'm here. I'm looking forward to finding out what's on your mind. More importantly, as you can tell from tonight's subject matter, we're going to be talking about the idea that the United States government is set to borrow $1 trillion during good times. And so never before has there been such great economic news coming out month after month, week after week, where we're in need of $1 trillion to be added to our national debt in good times. So the question is, what happens when things slow down and we run into somewhat of a pinch and things aren't really that good anymore, or it becomes obvious that this is all not really what it's cracked up to be, and there's more than 1 trillion needed in a time where the markets are slowing down and everything of that nature. But we're going to get in that tonight. And so once again, my name is Mike, the host of RTD Live Talk. I'm glad you guys are able to join us. As always, I sent out my typical text messages as well as email those in the email list, hoping that we can get a good portion of you guys in here tonight so we can go back and forth. And as always, I want to welcome any new viewers to the channel. Welcome to the RTD community. My name is Mike, the host of Detroit's #1 late night YouTube show. As always, any new viewers, feel free to let me know where you're watching from in the chat. More importantly, there's a number above my head, 1-833-LIVE-RTD. It's for you to call in and to let your voice be heard. And so with that being the case, let me actually got to take care of some more logistical things on my end. But as always, feel free to talk amongst yourselves in the chat, and we can get this thing going. And so want to find out what's going on, what other news that I might not be aware of that's happening around us. And looks like the war drums are steadily beating, man. I'm telling you, it's amazing how the mainstream news is really pushing this whole Maduro change. So we're going to get into that as well. But let me welcome a few people here. We got Spirit, Tony, D, Hernan, Kenneth, Tony. We got King Spirit. We got James. What else we got? Baseman. We got Pablo. Welcome, my friend. Hola. Pablo's speaking on Espanol. Student of Life, Bob, Blunt, Jill, how you guys doing, man? Quantitative Easing 4 will shake the coming bull rush. The coming bull rush, yeah, it's going to be something fierce. And so, what's up, Mike? How's everyone? Doing good. Thanks for tuning in, people. I appreciate you guys chiming in tonight. Definitely feel free to let me know what's on your mind, as well as some of the things that we're going to talk about. I got a couple articles here that are all titled. They all have titles that kind of give you an idea as to what's currently happening now. And these are from other people's assessment and the overall analysis of what our current global as well as our current economy, what the true matters are behind the scenes outside of what the official government statistics might be telling us. So we're going to cover just some of those topics itself. Will have you thinking that this is a different story going on than what we're being told. And so it says, semiconductors are leading indicators for the tech sector. Watch these big next tech names drop like a rock. SD Golf, man, I appreciate that. Semiconductors, okay. And that's the thing. There's so many different measurements out here based upon whatever field of study or expertise you might be in. So some people watch the jobs number. Some people watch the velocity of money. Some people watch the manufacturing. Some people watch the amount of wood being sold. Some people watch the amount of new homes being built. And so there's so many indicators, but yet I guess in a unanimous type of way, they're all indicating a slowdown, and slowdowns consecutively equals recession, and we're well beyond that point. And so Sweet Jones, as everybody said, hit the like button. Appreciate that. So far we got 1 thumbs down. I appreciate that thumb down. It takes a lot to be a hater. Not really, but I'm just playing with you. Appreciate the love anyway. So if you're tuning in, you got to tune in order to hit the thumbs down. So appreciate you for joining us, even if you left already. But we're going to keep it moving, man. This is the year about trying to help people, wake people up. I've actually had today, man, one of the viewers reached out to me on Twitter. And, we went back and forth a while, like a couple paragraphs, current retiree. And he was just commenting on, my analysis on the whole retirement situation. And so definitely I appreciate you reaching out to me via text and going back and forth. And it was great to get his perspective and what his strategies are for retirement. So as I was mentioning him, I think it's in reference to the live stream I did last night in reference to a new ebook that I'm going to be working on for the month of February. And so how my goal is to get the attention of those that are still asleep. And so I need something that's catchy, something that's somewhat's going to shake people awake. That's the only way I can figure to really get people's attention, other than just to give them a jolt of some analysis and truth, and just show them the numbers, show them how at the end of the day the math don't add up. And so that's what my goal will be with this next ebook. So for those that are interested, definitely I'm going to give it free to those that are a part of the email community and whatnot. So those that are interested, if you want to get a free copy of it to share with your family, friends, and just to dissect and prove me wrong, I would love that. Definitely those are going to go out to the email subscribers. And then for those that are not a part of the email list, I will be putting a little bit of a fee on top of it because it takes time and energy and everything else. So I want to make sure I take care of my community first. Those are in the email list. And so just be on the lookout for that. You guys will get more notifications as I really start to compress things together and get it going. So I got a question here, a couple questions here. What else we got here? It says 1.5% GDP reported this week. Ooh, yeah, that's not good. That's not good at all. Not surprising. It says the Minsky moment is already past. The dollar will lose a lot of value if the printing press do not slow down. Bob the Monk, 100%, my friend. As always, Federal Reserve note. And so as I mentioned before, understanding monetary history, you should be able to distinguish between a monetary debt instrument and a monetary asset. And so there's two types of mediums of exchange that are labeled dollar. One is this piece of paper here, and it says $1. And then the other one is this piece of thing right here. So these are two different instruments. And so according to the Act of 1792, where it established what the dollar would be labeled as and how it's defined, it's defined as some weight, not as some paper. So if you know these two distinctions here, depending on where you put your confidence and your where you store your wealth in will determine your financial outcome a little bit better. So those that have been watching the channel kind of know where that's heading, and that's the whole concept of get your weight up. So 401 nothing. Spirit, that's a good one. 401 nothing. Oh man, that's a good one. $40 silver would be nice. Penhas, Levon, $40 silver would be nice, but it's not nice. Appreciate the manipulation, my friend. Appreciate the fact you go get an ounce for under $17, $18, depending on what you're getting. That's the thing. Like, if you're of the mindset that this is one day going to correct and the truth will be revealed, you want as much. I want as much time as I can between now and then, so that I can acquire and to position myself a little bit better than to wish for prices to go up. I don't care about the prices. It's all about possession in the end. And so what else we got here? It says Mike has props. Yeah, I keep some props by me, man. I got all types of currency notes and rounds and all types of stuff, man, just as a reminder, as when I sit down here, what this is all about. It's about being able to educate people and share, my passion and enthusiasm on understanding how this thing is put together and how it's unraveling all at the same time. And so what else we got here? It says, I agree with D. Robbie. If not tonight, soon, let's talk about how to profit in the upcoming events. Sweet Jones, we can talk about that tonight. Feel free to share your thoughts and we can go back and forth. As always, it's all about solutions. And so we know what the problems are. They're evident. They're everywhere around us. I mean, people are feeling the problem, and it's starting to be more obvious as this whole government shutdown really exposed where a majority of the population, especially federal workers, are currently situated financially. They're one paycheck away from probably having issues. And so if a good chunk of the government workers are having problems, imagine those that are actually out in the private sector or unskilled labor or people that are in a situation where they're not able to contribute much value to the workforce. We already know where they stand. So definitely solutions are important. So let's talk about that tonight. Let me know. I'm open for whatever. So we got Catherine says, Deutsche Bank to get $1 from Qatar Fund. Merger talks, will it work? Hope not. Derivatives are killing markets. Ooh, Catherine. Okay, so let me I'm gonna Google that one because you stay on top of that one. I wasn't aware of that one, but I know they're trying to do everything they can to try to prop this thing up. And so let me pull up an article here, and just based upon this article, the title of this article here lets me know what we probably can expect from this. And so it says Deutsche Bank shares jump after report Qatar sovereign wealth fund make up stake. So Deutsche Bank shares were marked higher in Frankfurt Monday morning, a weekend report that suggested Qatar's multi-billion sovereign wealth fund was preparing to increase its stake in Germany's biggest lender. So here's my thoughts on that. Just hearing that first portion, you got a billionaire, a $1 billion sovereign wealth fund out in the Middle East somewhere that's going to put in put a little investment, take on a little debt load type of thing. But here's the thing. Multi-billion sovereign wealth fund, and Deutsche Bank has problems denominated in the trillions. So even if this Qatar's multi-million sovereign debt fund put up 20 billion just to, prop up the shares, it still has nothing to do with all the off-balance sheet stuff, such as the derivatives, which, to my knowledge, they're exposed to the largest amount of side bets and gambling hedges, greater than any other bank. So no matter what the billions are, when you're working with trillions, I don't see how that'll add up. It might buy them some time, which is what this is all about, in my opinion, because if we end up having an official slowdown to where it comes out third quarter, fourth quarter this year that we're in a recession, Deutsche Bank will be in very bad shape, and they're going to go down first in the EU. And then from there, every other bank that's connected will have it'll be just an overall banking contagion all the way down. Every bank just going to go heads up, belly up, all the way down. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, and I'll actually copy this and I'll post it in the link if anybody wants to dive in a little bit further. Want to make sure we cover the sources here, so I'll share that link there if anybody want to touch it. And so what else we got here? Phone lines are open. People, feel free to. Oh, we got a call. I'm missing some calls, so I apologize for that. Let me get somebody on here and find out what's going on. Let me see if everything works correctly right now. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, how you doing? It's Nicholas Smith down here from Kentucky.
Nicholas from Kentucky. How you doing, buddy? What's going on? What's on your mind?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Starting to get a little bit cold, but what was on my mind was I was just looking at some articles where GM had moved some jobs down to Canada for $2 an hour. And, I listen to you a lot, and I listen to a lot of, alternative news networks on the internet, and I like what you all are doing. But sometimes we forget, and we talk about how these people are leaving, going to these, these jobs leaving, going to the other countries.
Mm-hmm.
But they said that GM was only paying these Mexican workers like $2 an hour, which I lived, and I know you played basketball overseas and you lived over in Europe and stuff, but Europe's still a lot different than the third world country. I lived 5 years in the third world country in the Philippines, and I experienced of having like internet, telephone, and TV bills of like $40 a month, minimum water bills of like $8 a month. Utilities and stuff is cheaper, but gasoline is a lot more expensive, but you have public transportation. But anyway, back to Mexico, getting these jobs. And it's always about the profit. Why is it that we don't talk more about how to bring our inflation down? Like they say we don't have inflation, but in other countries, they're not buying the $40,000 car in Mexico, but yet they can provide food and everyday needs for their family of like 3 and 4 kids on that one wage. And here in the United States, we can't even survive on $15 an hour, man. You know what I mean? And in the Philippines, like I basically lived on $500 US a month, and I lived really good. I'm not saying like I was out going shopping every day to the malls, but I was eating T-bone steaks. I was eating a lot of fish, a lot of rice, but I never did go hungry. And I lived in a one-bedroom house, and it was awesome. But I've come back here, and it's just like we work so much and so hard, but we don't get nothing for our money. You know what I mean? We don't have no enjoyment because we're always in debt and stuff. But in these other countries, they can survive on these low income jobs. I think, you know, that's what we need to try to work on is figure out why we can't do like these other countries. Why are we repressed and we're making so much, but we're still repressed, you know?
Right. And so good point there, man. Good point there. And so when you were talking, I actually pulled up an index from a gentleman, Ed Butkowski, who I interviewed a while back. And he's the creator of Chapwood Index, which is what's considered the true real cost of living increase index. And so basically, if I have it up now, but the cost of living due to the way our monetary system is designed, it's designed to be inflationary, to where that it's attributed to compounding inflation. And so we have the world reserve currency, which means that our currency is the most dominant, most utilized medium of exchange on the planet. So we have more in circulation than any other country, period. And so I don't know what like the Mexico, what their money base is, but yet it's good to say that they have nowhere near as many pesos as we have dollars in circulation. So here in the USA, when it comes time to buy goods and services, we have a lot more money, currency in circulation than actual goods and services. So that difference there makes prices extremely expensive. Whereas in, say, Mexico or any second, third world countries, their money supply in relation to their goods and service and the utilities and just overall cost of living as a whole for their citizens tend to be a lot more cheaper because their currency isn't really valued as high. Therefore, it's a more domestically contained as far as inflation prices, to where depending on depending on what you make and where you're located at, everyone has fluctuates according to their income level. But the living and quality of life in Mexico and other places are a lot lower, to where, you know, it's more suitable to have cheaper gas, cheaper, you know, utilities and stuff like that, because there's not a large amount of supply currency to compete with that, and the overall standards is low. So anything higher for them would be problematic extremely. But for us, because we have a higher standard of living, currency is a lot more plentiful here. It all factors into where it shows up in our cost. And so here's an index that says the most expensive city, according to his measurements here, which calculates it calculates adjustable actual cost and price fluctuation of the top 500 items of which Americans spend their after-tax dollars on in 50 of the largest states. In New York City is the most expensive state year after year after year when you factor in the entire cost, room and board, house, food, gas, everything. And it's running about a 12.6% annual inflation rate there. So that's well beyond the 2% mandate that we're told. So factor all that in, they're losing that much more purchasing power per dollar, which makes it impossible to ever catch up to that when your costs are going up because your purchasing power is going down. So that
about it, it's like we live in a third world country in a sense, as much as everything is. It is here, you know what I mean? Because it's so unattainable without credit and indebting yourself for 5 or 6 years. I mean, sometimes if you think about it, it's just like it's just a big old crazy mess. You know what I mean?
Very true. Very true. So, man, yeah, I appreciate you calling and sharing your thoughts. We want to get some more people on here. But more importantly, when we get into more of the solution side of things, you know, everybody who watches the channel knows the importance of getting your weight up. So getting your weight up is the kryptonite towards crazy inflation. So as I always talk about before, and I mentioned before, don't concern yourself with the price of metals. Concern yourself with the possession of metals, because, you know, as the price of the cost of living goes up, it's usually, once we're not in a manipulated environment, it's usually that liquidity and all that stuff that pushes up asset prices will eventually work its way to metals. And then that's when you're going to start seeing the currency really drop, but then the cost and the value stored in those metals will go up. So it's kind of like a counter hedging type of situation, as I'm sure you're aware of.
Oh, yeah. So, like when I lived in the Philippines, like when you went to the pawn shops over there, you know, because times got tough, you know, I was over there for 5 years and I'd have to make a pawn. Well, my wife, I would pawn her engagement ring and my necklaces and stuff, but gold over there brings you like market prices, unlike here, you know, they just want to give you like, because people don't realize it. You know, when you go to the pawn shop here, they lowball you. They only offer you this, that. But now when you go to the pawn shop with gold in a third world country, I'm telling you what, they want that gold. They're not worried about no diamonds or nothing.
Yeah, they know what's up. They know what's up with the true worth and true value of having some metals in your possession. So, but hey, man,
I don't think people understand how bad this food stamp situation is because they opened up the government for 3 more weeks, and I honestly think they've done that to not run out of food stamp money because, like, me and some of my family was discussing, I'm not saying they're pretty much moderate middle class, and they're all older men, and they're still they're Democrats. But really, I try to explain to them that by their morals and things, and the way they really think, they're more Republicans. But anyway, and they was just talking about, and they was thinking saying it wouldn't be that bad. And I'm like, guys, people don't live like you all do. I said, people live check to check and payday to payday. And I said, when you get up in these big cities like where you're at up there in Michigan and stuff, in Detroit, it's going to get crazy when you start messing with people's bellies and stuff. And I think the food stamp issue is a hidden issue that they're not really wanting to talk about, just to know the vulnerability of everything right now.
Hey, that could be true, man. But hey, appreciate you calling in, my friend. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your support, buddy.
Yeah, man.
All right, have a good one. Yeah, that's a very good thought there. The idea that maybe this government shutdown temporarily for 3 weeks was just literally to put some funds back in some of the social programs so that things would stay afloat in the meantime as they sit back, at the table to try to work this thing out. So, but that's what it is, man. So we got some stuff in the chat. As always, feel free to call in. Love to get you on here. Says we could live on $15 an hour if we didn't have the cost of health insurance. Angie. Yeah. And so beyond just the cost of living, all that's factored into your expectations of your standard of living. And so some people can live with $15 an hour and do just fine, depending on your responsibilities and what you're, attached to as far as your daily expenditures and your monthly expenditures. So some people can do it fine, but then you have others who want a little bit of a greater standard of living to where they couldn't afford the lifestyle they want to live off $15 an hour, which, basically, roughly less than $30,000 a year. So with that being the case, it's more so, what are you looking for? What is your value contribution to society worth to the market? That's what it boils down to. So the more skills and more value you add, the more you're worth. So that's usually how it plays out. And I think that's extremely fair. And so it's unfortunate that our education system doesn't help prepare majority of the people, especially if unfortunately if it's a public school education. That's basically just saying you're sending your kids to training camps, but I'm gonna leave that alone. Says CNN, Federal Reserve, crazies aren't going to give up, make the arrest. Blake, good one. Says as of 1/27/19, the U.S. national government was $1.47 trillion more in debt on a cash basis than on the same date a year ago. Yeah, man, deficit spending. And so here's the biggest thing. I'm going to pull our article up right here. And so let me find that article. This is what really caught my attention tonight, and this is what I wanted to definitely touch on. And so it says U.S. Treasury set to borrow $1 trillion. And so here's something that does bother me when they use the word borrow. Typically, and somebody let me know in the chat, I could be wrong, but if someone were to say, Mike, let me borrow, $1, let me borrow $5, borrow 10. When I hear the word borrow, I'm thinking like, okay, and my next question would be like, okay, then, when I anticipate them saying, I'll get it back to you next week, or, I'll get it to you next month. So it's usually if you want to borrow something, you give a due date so the person can feel confident that they can get it back if that's what it's about. So when we say the word set to borrow $1 trillion, first thing came to mind is we're not borrowing $1 trillion because we're not giving that back. And so, we're issuing debt for somebody to buy it. And the question is, who's going to be buying this stuff more likely? But when you say the word borrow, you tend to think about repaying back. But we're in a position where we're not repaying back. So if we're not repaying back, we should just go ahead and remove borrow and put the word in U.S. Treasury set to, steal, take out, or, what word, promise to pay, put it on the tab. Yeah. U.S. Treasury set to put $1 trillion on the public's tab to borrow away our great grandkids' future, and yeah. So anyway, that's interesting. But second year, $1 trillion in second year to finance the deficit, And so here's where things start to really get a little questionable, because if we're in an economic expansion, which I don't hear that narrative much from the mainstream news, I hear more recession talk from a lot of analysts and mainstream corporate news. But here we have the idea of a second year of borrowing into the negative. And so we're borrowing into the negative in times where we're supposed to be good. And so it says here, the U.S. Treasury Department is set to maintain elevated sales of long-term debt. And that's another thing, like you're selling debt. You're selling liabilities that can't be paid back, but yet, yeah, it used to be considered, worthy of having. China, Russia, all liquidating this. They're selling these instruments, but yet they still creating them to finance the government's widening budget deficit, with new issuance projected to top $1 trillion. So it's just $1 trillion as of now. It's good to say by the end of this year, depending on how this thing plays out throughout the middle year, whatever the slowdown results in, we could probably see. I've read, I think Michael Pinto, former guest on RTD Live Talk, mentioned about, when things get slow. He said like fall, spring. He said we could probably be closer to $2 trillion realistically. And when the recession hits and that initial, injection of quantitative whatever is borrowed, easily 3. So I think I heard him say by the end of this year we could be easily at $3 trillion. And the question is, $3 trillion of new money created out of nothing isn't going to be good for those that are sitting on a lot of paper, because that's going to play into that inflation aspect. So if you think, New York is, 12.6 inflation now, wait till, we add a little bit more to the monetary base. I think more people are going to find out really what the value and purchase power of those notes are. But here's a little graph here, and it shows you that 1990, we were at the U.S. Treasury already boosted auction issuance, $34 billion. Had the recession, $18 billion, $81 billion, and then we've been up here ever since the Great Recession with no signs of going down. So just that title alone lets you know what's going on. And so I have a super chat here. I want to acknowledge that. Penhas, how you doing, my friend? Hunt's Brothers event would be nice for silver. I think the Hunt brothers, as that resulted in them having some issues, I think Warren Buffett was the next person to sit on a huge stockpile of silver. And then once he was kind of forced to liquidate his for a favor, because Warren Buffett, did pretty well during the Great Recession as far as being bailed out. So he scratched the back of the people he lent that silver out to, probably JP Morgan-ish, give or take. And so as of right now, one of the two big to fail banks reportedly has the biggest silver hoard that we are aware of. So it's no coincidence that the Hunt brothers got in trouble. Warren Buffett scratched some backs and sold it into a bear market. Okay. And now we have one of the too big to fail banks sitting on the biggest stockpile, happily at the right time. Is this the helicopter money coming? Crypto, helicopter money, universal basic allowance is what I call it here. UBA is not UBI, because income means you have to work for something. So allowance is more so what's given to you, whether you earn it or not. So when the government or the central bank allocates an allowance to people, that spells trouble. It spells trouble. Blake Wood, what's SMDH? Let me know what you mean by that. SMD, I didn't see that. Study up on them. Super cool story. It says it's kind of a misdemeanor to say that they are borrowing it, considering that they can't pay it back. They are just spending it. The only reason it's even debt is because the system is set up that way. Bamboo, very good point there, man. Tony, it says QE4, 5 on the way. QE4 and 5 on the way. Yeah, and so as we've seen from the last QE, the 1, 2, 3 was set to help liquidate and to capitalize the banking sector. And so now it looks like part of this quantitative tightening, they're selling off some of those things and withdrawing liquidity from the system. And so what that tells me is that the banking sector will need a little bit more lubrication pretty soon in the days ahead, as far as them having some liquid funds to prop themselves up. So not only will the banks need some, but I think the American public will need some. And so as you guys are familiar, how I referenced that a good way to get funds into the hands of the people, to get them excited, to then have it deposited into the banks, is to issue an allowance directly to the people. The people more likely will deposit into the bank account because you got to cash the checks. And then doing so, you can put $2-3 trillion back in the banking sector easy to help them with their fractional reserve lending. So as of right now, that's kind of where I stand with that in reference to this UBA that's coming. They're going to give it directly to you in the form of a check or some type of, tax credit or something of that nature. It says you don't have to work for income. Very true. There's multiple ways of getting it, but typically some type of service or value needs to be added in order to receive a reward, typically. And that's where that UBA becomes very problematic, because based upon the test pilots done now, one out in California and whatever city that is in California, from the young mayor out there, the fact they're pilot testing what it's like to give people $3,000 for a year to see what they do. And so based upon that study, why would you need to run a study on a universal basic allowance unless that was a part of the plan? And the goal was to forerun some type of plan like that to find out what people would do. And it's good to say those that are unaware and asleep, they're going to use it for consumption. And those that are awake and aware, they're going to use it to probably pay down debt and to better themselves as far as getting heavy and, basically redeeming those notes for something that's of true value. So it's going to work both ways. Stockton, good point. Tony, that's out by you, man, isn't it? Says Mike, apparently if the UK doesn't make a Brexit agreement, they can't join the World Trade Organization for 7 years and will need to have tariffs. They expect the UK need 30 years to recover. Spirit, man, that's good analysis there. And I don't think we have 30 years as under the current monetary system for them to be able to get it back up to snuff and trade. So as I mentioned before, I'm sticking with the idea, and this is what I'm going to be basing a lot of my upcoming research on in reference to that ebook I'm referring to, is the idea that the Federal Reserve note as we know it now does not have 5 to 10 years. I don't see it lasting 5 to 10 years without some type of implosion, some type of increased inflationary type pressures, which will basically hurt the value of currencies. And so not only are we in a currency war already with this trade situation, the consumer dollar, keep your eye on that thing, because it will become, as I mentioned in the intro of this video, it might be your worst nightmare, as well as any other currency for that matter. So any other fiat-based currency issued by a government that's borrowed from a central bank. It says if you study Robert Kiyosaki, they said likely metals will crash with everything else, but they will skyrocket deflation with inflation. I'm kind of investing based on that theory. Blake Wood, good point, man. And so here's one of the things in reference to that statement there, as well as Mike Maloney always mentioned that, we're going to see some deflationary type of pressures, no doubt. And so I'm going also with the idea that we're currently in stagflation. We've been in stagflation according to the definition of it for quite some time now, where we're having a collision of monetary policy in many fronts. So we got the inflated bubble type assets that we all know about. Then we have more consumer-based, like gas prices right now is down. That's more deflationary. We have what else? Cell phone bills, because of competition, everything else are down. So there's some consumer items that are decreasing in price, while other major assets are going up, hence the whole stagflation. We're caught up in between this rock and roller coaster ride. And so the problem will be if the bubbles pop and they come down, it's going to take everything else down with them, because there's no way that, gas can stay low and companies be profitable. So they're going to have to spike the prices up on that. And so, all those consumer goods that we're used to having now at a somewhat of a comfort and leisure here, they're going to have to go up as a response to monetary policy. So I do anticipate massive deflation. And then deflation basically makes cash on hand or readily available that much more of an asset to you, because you can then acquire things that are on sale. So when it comes to metals, here's the issue with that, Blake, is the idea that metals, because they are money, you're basically saying that you think that a coin dealer or bullion person will be willing to take a loss for some paper notes. So it's good to say, even if the price of silver or gold drop down to all-time lows, even more so, they're going to add it up. They're going to add the premium on top of that, because they purchase, all the bullion dealers right now purchase gold or silver at probably spot price that we're currently at now, and they put their premium on top of that, $2 or $3, give or take, whatever you're buying. And so if it drops down, spot drops down to 11, do you think they're going to say, okay, we'll take $13 for it? No, they're going to say we need 17, so the premium is going to be $5 or $6. So anywhere the real price go, the difference is going to be made up in the premium. So that's the side thing. That's the thing about waiting too long. If you wait for things to crash, you may not be able to get in, and then you might not have access to cash. The credit market could lock up. So it's so many things where that's why I started off this video saying that appreciate the manipulation now, because it's not about the price. Whether it goes up or goes down, it's not about that. It's about possession. Possession is, what I was going to say, I got a little something in my head. Possession is 4/5 of the law. I don't know what I came from. It just sounded like it rhymed. So yeah, just my 2 cents, man. But hey, man, the phone lines are dead, man. Anybody want to talk to you? What? Feel me? Give me a call. Let's talk. I want to hear some voices. It's one thing to keep talking back and forth to myself. It's like I'm here by myself, and I know I got people watching me. So don't be afraid to call in or let me know what's happening in the chat. It says gas in the U.S. will become $5 when Venezuela cuts out 17,000 barrels a month. Ooh, Tony, don't say that, man. You're scaring people. But very true. It says a lack of velocity in people running to the dollar of perception of safety. Blake, yeah, that's on the international front more so. Like, just from people outside this country, they view the Federal Reserve note as still being backed by gold or good as gold, especially in Argentina and all the countries that's having high inflation problems. The next best thing is to try to get your hands on some dollars to where dollars are scarce, especially like right now in Zimbabwe. Dollars are just scarce. I mean, they're not plentifully available like that. So I watch documentaries where they got dollars that have been so worn that you can barely see George Washington's face on there. So, but that things still circulate to the point where there's more Federal Reserve notes in Zimbabwe that are worn and torn that people still use. And by our standard, them things would need to be returned in and reissued. That's how bad they are. But there's a shortage of Federal Reserve notes there because people are hoarding notes. But think about those same people hoarding notes. Pretty soon when things hit the sky and they realize that we're having the same issues as they might be having, think about how mad you're going to be stuck with a bunch of notes outside of your own country's notes. So yeah, man, that's what it is. Says, what else you got here? Good point. What it says, Caleb, what we got? You got to make sure the planet is well done. We saved our oil for the end. Bamboo, that's another thing by us now being, gas independent, oil independent, whatever, we're supposed to be as a country, which makes us a little bit more, self-sufficient, supposedly. We'll see how long our stockpile can last. I don't really follow the oil sector, so I don't know what we're sitting on. But I would probably guess that, I would probably guess that we're going to have some issues where I don't think we're going to actually find enough oil at the end of the day to meet demand. All right, so here's another article I'm going to share with you. Since the phone lines aren't ringing, I'm going to give you guys some articles. And so here's another article. It's caught my attention, and it says the wrong track. And so public sours over nation's direction after shutdown. And so it says 63% of Americans say the nation is on the wrong track, according to a new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll. So over more than half of the population, those that are surveyed, said that we're heading in the wrong direction. And so I wonder what direction. It says they have negative opinions on the state of the nation today. It says wrong track, disarray, turmoil, polarized, concerns, shambles, and declining were some of the answers given by respondents to some asked to sum up their feelings on the state of America. Times are grim. The public, yeah. So 28 said we head in the right direction. 63% said we headed in the wrong direction. So my question for you guys, for those that want to share their thoughts, are you in the same mindset? Would you say also that we're also headed in the wrong direction, or could we be on track for what is the inevitable, which is why it's important to be awake and aware and active in this current economy. So if you agree that we're in the wrong track, heading in the wrong direction, and so I'm not sure how that's categorized in this article here. And so I see something about Trump's approval rating right here. So, his approval rating, according to NBC Wall Street Journal, looks like it's pretty steady. So I'm not sure if people are concerned with, that he's shaking stuff up and the outcome might be trouble, or is that excitement of the fact that he's doing something different? Not sure. But for those that are watching, real quick, based upon the survey here, 63% say that we're heading in the wrong direction in regards to just a negative direction. Thumbs up if you guys agree, and thumbs down if you think we're on course for what is inevitable and what's needed. Feel free to chime in on the chat or give me a call. Let me know. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So don't be afraid to hit that thumbs up if you agree we're in the wrong direction, or if you disagree. Do that real quick for me. And then what else here? So that's a good article here. Then I'm going to go to another one. And so this one here, it's kind of long. So I'm not going to really Yeah, I'm not going to read this because it's kind of long. It's kind of long. But anyway, so we can keep this thing going as always. Let me check back in the chat. So I got one person going once, going twice. Anybody else? Anybody else want to share their thoughts? And the good thing is, let me see how many people we got watching as of right now. So we got 126 people watching right now. And so it'd be good if you watch it and you logged into your YouTube, which you are, to just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Real quick, it won't hurt you at all. And then while you're at it, don't be afraid to hit the thumbs up button below the video to show your support and hopefully help some newcomers come into the community that can get caught up to speed and unplug themselves from the matrix and get tuned in and begin taking action. And so I missed a call. Feel free to call back in. I'll get you on here. But I'll thumb through some of the says Trump approval rating is going down worse than U.S. used car salesperson if we hit the recession. Just the facts. Ace, no, 100%. I mean, because when this thing goes under, who else can you blame but the people who are propping it up? And so it's unfortunate that Trump he uses he's owning this economy that he's apparently inherited, but it's all an illusion anyway. So he's basically saying that he ran against everything being an illusion, but now he's taking credit for it. So I don't feel bad for him for taking credit for something he inherited. But hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Mike, Tony from Oakland. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, my friend. How you doing, Tony?
Oh, not too bad. I just want to make two comments.
Yes.
First one being that we need to be careful with the way this administration's mincing their words together. Mm-hmm. We are the number one producer, but we are nowhere in the top 10 in the export business of our oil.
Mm. Okay.
So
okay.
Yeah. So we need to be careful because there's a difference in between producing and exporting it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to say is I think that wait a minute. I was right about the immigration coming up from Mexico.
Yeah. So
that's T on you.
Okay, so that's T on me. No, watch this.
The second thing is Venezuela is going to be our last stance. We're at this dead end point, and you can see the way the administration is trying to push towards Venezuela because they have to get that oil out of Venezuela's hand. Otherwise, our economy is done when it comes to producing oil. Because fracking, you only get at the most 10 years out of a frack well or a frack rock, cracking the rock.
Yeah.
You don't get that much out of that, and that's what Russia and them's waiting on. Is just waiting on to keep the prices low and waiting on everybody else to go belly up. But the U.S. thinks that they can outlast that if they could get Venezuela off the market and Iran.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd assume that the initial plan, from what we've all heard throughout the years, was to already have probably been in Iran and already established some puppet government figures there. But that doesn't seem to have worked because of Russia's intervention and Russia's involvement with selling their missile and defense systems. So there's some issues with attacking Iran. So do you think they shift gears? So you're saying they shift gears from Iran as a focal point for war to now Venezuela because it's closer to us and their oil as well? That's what you're kind of saying?
They tried it in Syria.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you just look at where they tried it, and if it's an oil-producing country, look what happened. Russia steps in, China steps in,
so,
and then they bring Iran in because Iran, Venezuela, Cuba are only three without a central bank.
Yeah. So do you think that you think before spring we're going to do some things, or can you see Vladimir Putin, who's always seemed to be a step ahead? Set up base, set up shop, send some troops, send some whatever into Venezuela to deter that continuation of announcing a gentleman that's self-declared as president, actual president.
From what I've read, Russia has sent already 2 nuclear planes over there and have sent their what I would consider their undercover men to protect Maduro. I don't see U.S. unless the U.S. gets the backing of the military over in Venezuela, they ain't gonna step foot on there, and neither is Colombia or Brazil. They don't want that because there's some Venezuelans in Colombia.
Yeah.
So you don't want to start something that you ain't gonna be able to finish because your back door is open.
Yeah, good point, man. Well, hey, Tony, man, I appreciate you for sharing that. Definitely, it's more food.
Thank you, brother.
More food for thought, my friend. Thank you.
Keep keep your head up. No worries.
We'll do. All right, be good. Yeah, man. That's that's two back-to-back calls of just some a possible alternative to what could play down, man. So I appreciate you guys for chiming in and sharing your thoughts, man. It's invaluable. It's extremely valuable to have people that's informed and giving solutions and strategies, because it just spans for more thoughts, man, more things to think about. So yeah, so I think the government shutdown next 3 weeks. We're gonna see what's gonna happen with that. Factored in with what's happening down in Venezuela. It's good to say that things will not ease up down there, and so there will be some intervention somehow, some way. As I mentioned on the last call last night, I see U.S. supporting the bordering countries and bringing pressure on them to come this way, as opposed to us coming down, and which we already don't listen to the UN and all those other bodies that are supposed to be mediators in problems between sovereign nations, but because we, for the most part, we own it. We have more of a say-so to that body of elected, unelected, or elected officials, whatever they are. It's all a game. But with that being the case, we always seem to not care what anybody says anyway, and we tend to go anyway. So that being the case, as of now, we're going to be going to Venezuela, and so it's more so up to Maduro's allies to save his neck. And if they don't save his neck, he's good as gone. And if he's good as gone, that means Venezuela will go through several years of chaos, because I can see just the Maduro supporters never giving up the fight of keeping Chavismo or Hugo Chavez legacy intact. Because I was watching Maduro's speech the other day, listening to it, and it's amazing how he's the president under Chavez. He's still, they treat him like he's God type of thing. Like, his mission is still alive, and the people are brainwashed, man. Like, look at the country, look at the state of the country now. That's because of socialism. That's because of Hugo Chavez. But to them, I guess for whatever reason, he protected and saved them. But look at their economy now. Look at their currency. Like, this is not the first time this has happened. So something is not right there. So hopefully people move away from socialistic policies. But as I can see it, there's always going to be a government that's going to have power and influence and rule over their people, and that's bad. That's bad, very, very bad. Panic Paradox, can I call you, sir? Panic, give me a call, man. 1-833-LIVE-RTD. We'd love to take your call. Probably take one more call, give or take, and then we're going to call in the evening. Got a late start, but then also it's getting late, so it's been good. It says borrowing is a tax on citizens through market adjustments on the dollar's value. Jose, very good point, man. Very good point. Pickle Man, how you doing? Yeah, man, that's what's up, man. I appreciate you guys chiming in tonight. Get to a couple more calls if you guys want to. Other than that, we're going to keep this thing sweet and simple. And it's been great having you guys on. For those that are still watching, if you came late, if you just arrived, I always tell people, don't be afraid to hit the thumbs up button, because what that does while we're streaming live, I think it helps with the algorithm so that Google can elevate it so more people can find out about Rethinking the Dollar and come into the community and join us, man. That's what it's about, getting more people that's not in tune with the truth involved. Says you're all looking for war on the wrong place. The red heifer was born in Israel. Now they can do the Bible prophecy of the third temple. That's the final war. Less than 3 years to start. Spirit King. I've actually read up on and watched some videos on the third temple that's set to be erected on the Temple Mound. And so I don't follow the situation in that area too closely, but based upon all the biblical prophecies that need to take place, I don't know exactly time frame. I never really focus on time when it comes to biblical prophecies, because there's no telling what God has in mind. So I don't focus on that because it's inevitable. It's going to happen because it's already written in the books. So that being the case, that's not my thing I focus on. I focus on the underlying message from the biblical standpoint of what Jesus himself preached, and basically what his whole ministry was about. It was to repent and to believe and receive the kingdom, which came in the form of his spirit inside of us. So that's my primary focus. Anything else, I'll let God do God. I'll focus on what I can control, and that's, praising and being grateful for this very moment to speak to you guys. So it's a blessing to be able to connect with people like-minded and have good back and forth. So it said they need the heifer ashes to their peace, bless the temple. That's the only prophecy that counts for them. Yeah, and so we will see. And I'm sure there's a lot of YouTubers that follow that type of stuff. I personally don't follow anyone that focuses on that side of the equation. And so, but appreciate your spirit. Keep us up to date, man. Definitely can appreciate that. It says Venezuela uses a local currency. Multiple currencies, not the CB float because it's trash. Right, man. If you want to find out what worthless paper looks like, you can just Google and YouTube bolivars in the street. And you're going to come up with pictures and stuff of people just like, piles of paper just stacked up on top of each other. People just, worthless paper. And think about it, it at least costs like 5 cents per note, 2 cents per note. And to think them damn things are just piles of burning trash. Yeah, man. Blake, Mrs. Lisa, leaving, amen. So do you think silver will dip, cats fly? Yes, I do think the price of silver will dip, but as I mentioned earlier, because of the premiums, it won't be necessarily cheaper for the consumer because dealers will not let things. Dealers won't lose money. They're going to make sure they make a profit, so they got to make up in the premium. So I think it's going to go lower. So right now might be the best time. Give or take, you might be able to get on some cheap silver when that happens, but I wouldn't bank on it. And so I also, for those that are interested, I think, cryptocurrency is going to be in for another dip as well. But if everything is valued in dollar terms, when the dollar goes down, everything else has to go up. So that's my stance on that. And so it says silver is an industrial metal, so the whole world just wants it stable. That wouldn't be bad. That wouldn't be bad at all. So we got our last call here, and then we're going to call it in for the evening. So people, let's see what we got. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, I'm TJ. I'm from New Jersey.
TJ from New Jersey. How you doing, my friend? Appreciate you calling. What's on your mind this evening?
So, I'm sure like you, I follow Mike Maloney and Peter Schiff, and I like them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I know on Mike Maloney is goldandsilver.com.
Yeah.
For a small charge, you buy from his website, and they send it to a Brinks vault of your choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard Peter Schiff with the gold money, he's mentioned it before, pretty much does the same thing.
Yeah.
And I know if you don't hold it, or you can't hold it, you don't own it. Are they just providing a service that some people might want, or is Brinks Vault safe?
And so, good question. So, my opinion, my personal opinion on this is that the whole idea, they're providing a service, but for those that are more on the high net worth side, they already have the opportunity of being able to be probably location independent. So if they have vaults in Singapore, they have probably the access to be able to go there and pick up with no problems. But for the average Joe that have never left the country before, if you've never left the country before, then to have gold allocated in different places could be somewhat of a problem because, right now things are stable. We know how governments usually respond, give or take. But in another jurisdiction, when things hit the fan, it's no telling what laws might be enacted to allow governments to have access to go into Brinks and come out with whatever's in there. And they say it's all insured, but it's insured in fiat currency. So you're not going to get your metal back. You're going to get some paper back. And you may not want paper at that point. So those are the risk and the counterparty aspects to storing outside. And so I've had prior guests on to share their thoughts on what they do, and they are probably well vetted. They're all veterans in this industry, so they are the mindset that it doesn't hurt to have a little bit here, so that worst case scenario, if you do leave,
spread the risk,
right? You can disperse it if you're willing to be geographically accessible to get to that spot, give or take, however that happens. But having a little bit some everywhere puts you in a position where you're never stranded with just one or two places confiscated. You might have some stash, somewhere. So having things a little bit everywhere could be of benefit to you. But if you're not an international person, then I personally wouldn't recommend that or think that. But at the end of the day, if you got some weight in different locations, locally, then you might be better off or be cool. So it's more so your preference than what you can afford.
I live in North Jersey.
Yeah.
So I know there's a Brinks Vault in New York, but I don't know if I really want to trust any Brinks Vault inside the United States. I know Canada and Switzerland and England.
Yeah.
And I've heard Peter Schiff say that Singapore is probably the safest you get.
Yeah.
But like you said, I never left the country, and I have no way of getting over there. And being so close to China, who knows, right?
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, we don't know. We're going to find out. And so it's one of the things where it's not a right or wrong. Like, because a lot of this advice / opinion / solution is all, for the most part, being done the first time this particular way, where we're all interconnected. Every country has a fiat currency that's going to have issues. And then governments, as a response to that, they're going to come up with policies that we could have probably never thought of, which, we'll have to see what happens. So But we'll find out. But that's just my 2 cents, man. And so if you're going to be diversified in multiple places, have access to those places. And if you're not willing to get up and go, then you might want to consider having it somewhere else. So, but that's something we can all talk about at a later date and debate on. And I'm sure people have different opinions. So, but I appreciate you, my friend.
I appreciate it. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks. My pleasure. Have a good evening. Yeah, man. So that was a good call, man. That was a good call. And for those, everybody I'm sure in the chat has an opinion as to what they or might do or what they don't do. And so for the most part, there's no direct strategy towards how and where to place it. It's more so, as I mentioned earlier, about just having possession of it. And that right there is first base. Get the first base, and then after that, it's up to you to pray and be led as to what you feel might be best, what the Lord might want you to do, and all that stuff like that. So that's where I leave it there, because anything beyond that, is a gamble. And it's up to you to make sure you feel comfortable gambling with your own future. Because once again, when it comes to this alternative approach, there is no certified advice that can come from anybody other than we all know what's going to happen in the end. The Federal Reserve knows it's going to have major issues. So that being the case, people, it's been real hanging out with you guys this evening. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Mike, the host of RTD Live Talk. It's been great. Last request, if anybody wants, don't be afraid to hit that thumbs up button. That shows that your support for the channel. As well as any new viewers here, there's a gang of free resources down below. And you guys can just, plug into some things down there, some ebooks, some free stuff, some affiliates, some advertising things there. All things that I recommend, things that I utilize. And so I want to definitely keep you guys up to speed on that. Other than that, people, if you guys want to be a blessing to the channel, your boy loves support. So, I want to do more things, and I need help doing such. And such as the text messaging service that, as I mentioned, make sure everybody's informed and up to date. It costs. And so it's one of the things that me personally, it takes a lot to run this channel as far as the cost of hosting, website, da-da-da-da-da. So with that being the case, thank you for all the support you guys do give me. And so other than that, I'll see you guys later. Be safe, be blessed, and as well as share this video, do whatever you want to do. Invite a friend to enjoy this tomorrow. And I'm still working on RT Meetup on Wednesday night. So if I got any Detroit people, my request is that you email me at rethinkingthedollar.com. Go to that website, put your email in there, and shoot me an email. Let me know if you about trying to meet up on Wednesday, and we can connect on Wednesday night, man, and hang out a little bit and strategize or whatever. So other than that, until we meet again, peace.